So this is part 2, I suppose, or like part 1 of part 2 about drinks and beverages.
Yeah, like food and beverage. This is the beverage part.
This is the beverage section. And we have just returned from a week-long trip in Ireland.
Yes.
I was there for work. Cormac was there for keeping me emotionally supported.
Yeah. Very important role.
Yes, but we did manage to go to a lot of different bars.
Yes, I also managed to squeeze in a birthday party for my mother.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Westport, Galway, Leitrim, Dublin.
You were all over the shop.
All over the shop.
Yeah.
6 days, 7 days.
Yeah, so I was just in Galway and a bit of Dublin, but we didn't go out in Dublin.
Yeah.
Because Dublin is way too expensive. But yeah, so this episode is going to be all about... It's one half, but this episode is going to be about the pub versus the bar, non-alcoholic beverages, wine in Italy versus Ireland, beer in Italy versus Ireland, the drinking culture at large, and then back to food, pub snacks and bike.
Pub snacks and back to bike.
So yeah, we'll try and fly through it because I feel like each one of these topics, whenever we start talking about it, we realize that it could be its own
episode, or we could just keep talking about it.
Well, we
probably reach a stage where people will stop listening.
Yeah,
but we'll keep talking.
We do like an L tipple.
Yeah,
we do like a beveragino.
A beveragino, indeed, and there's always different types. There's the cure, the session, the 1 or 2, the post work. So many variants.
So many variants. But yeah, so we'll talk about the pub versus the bar. We are lucky in Florence that there are 17 Irish pubs.
17 Irish pubs, yeah.
So we obviously do, we aren't those people that on holidays we're like, oh, we need to go to an Irish pub. But we do like the pub scene.
We were only because...
We were trying to get
me a job, but we were trying to get out of the heat and into an air-conditioned pub.
True.
So, we knew the Irish pub would be able to sort us out on that one, and also have a nice cold glass for a frosty pint on a 40-degree day in Rome.
Yeah, that was our first going into the Abbey bar.
We thought we were going to pass out outside.
Well, yeah. So the Italian bar. Why don't you describe it, Cormac?
Well, it's difficult in a way because the bar scene here is very much surrounded by the aperitivo hour. So it's like post work, 5 to 7. That's where you go. Bars here are often called cafes.
Yeah.
So they serve coffee, they serve beers, they serve wines.
They're often a tabacceria as well.
So bar is kind of a funny one over here. Like you can find them wine bars called anatecas. Mm-hmm. So I think that's their closest version where you'd find some bar stools in there. You'd find, be able to sit at the counter. Where the cafes are very much, they have low tables surrounding the bar, but the bar itself is stand only because people like coming in, get a coffee, get your cigarettes, maybe a small beer, and then out the door again.
Yeah.
So they just quick stop in. Like the bar scene over here is very much designed on quick stop in.
And I really just liked cafe bars when we first got here because I was I don't want to feel like I'm standing in a shop, nor do I want to feel like it's 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm having I should be having a coffee when really it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm having a beer. They're very brightly lit oftentimes with a lot of mirrors.
Yeah.
So I didn't like them at first. And now, since going back to Ireland, I just wanted an espresso at 10:30 at night. I could not keep going. The Irish, we drink way later into the evening.
Yeah.
And to try and keep that energy up was just...
a nightmare. A nightmare. So...
Your Irish pub then?
Well, Irish pub coming from public house, it's started off, 17th century. It was designed at somebody's home. They turned it into a bar where they were legally allowed to sell alcohol. So very much that's the pub scene feel in Ireland. You're walking into an extension of somebody's home, dimly lit, really full of character.
Wooden furniture.
So the whole rules in public houses were you have to be able to buy a drink at the bar and not have table service. So that's the other big difference as well. Bars in Italy very much are table service as well, whereas pubs in Ireland, good luck getting a pint dropped down to you at the table unless it's a local pub at 11 o'clock in the morning or something. So pubs can be, especially in Ireland, all the walls are clad in wood. It's very full of stuff on the walls, pictures. It's more of a community outpost.
Yeah.
People come in. There's more deals done in bars, we always say in Ireland, than any office in the world.
Well, sure. I call my local back home the office.
It's called the office amongst the art community in Galway.
Well, yeah, so I guess that moves us on to social roles of the pubs versus cafes.
So, it's quite similar for the community role, the local kind of corner tobacco cafe bar in Italy It's very much a community place where everyone meets.
Mhm.
A lot of them as well actually serve food. So it's a weird all-in-one inclusive. Like the nearest one to our house right now has a little outdoor area,
Mhm.
has that quintessential standing bar in the corner. You can get a beer, you can get your coffee, you can buy cigarettes, you can also get some pasta, some food, some lunch. So everything in one. They close at like 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Done. So it's very much day drinking is a thing here. It's a known thing. Like people start their day off lunch. His lunch could take 2 or 3 hours.
Mhm.
So you have your beers, whereas the Irish pub is the
You
same
go
for a lot
in
of
kind of
places,
after work.
but it's after work. Like you either go in for lunch and you might get a pint and a bowl of soup or something, but then you're off again. And
I don't feel like many people do that.
not many people do. Like a certain
demographic,
certain demographic, definitely.
But no, like your average Joe wouldn't have a drink at lunchtime. I know it's more like in the UK culture, they definitely go for like a pint during their lunch, but we tend to stick it out and wait until 5 o'clock and then we go mad.
I know, like back home where I'm from, it's very much 5 o'clock. All the lads, tradies, they finish work, they go into the pub, they have a few bets on the horses, and then they'll get the business done. John will sit down, he's a plasterer. Hughie will sit down, he's a builder. Howie, do you want to do this job with me next week? Yeah, grand. Oh, do you have this? Oh, I just came back here, I have loads of cigarettes from Spain. Do you want to buy a few? Yeah, grand. So it's the community role is very much.
Yeah, and then like, so you're more country, obviously, being from Leitrim, whereas in Galway, like, it is technically a city, it's more like a big town.
Yeah.
But, people don't go out, especially younger people, you wouldn't be heading into a pub until like 7 or 8 o'clock. Like, I always, like, the way that I was raised was you go home after work, you refresh, you like have a shower, you have your dinner, and then you get ready to go out. So like my family and your family are totally different in that way, where my parents wouldn't be heading out until 8 o'clock in the evening, maybe 9 o'clock sometimes.
My parents would already be back home after their rake of pints.
Possibly in bed,
very possibly in bed. So my family is very much like you finish work at 4 or 5, go have your 4, 5, 6 pints, get home by 6, 7 o'clock, have the dinner, sit down on the couch, watch some telly, up to bed.
Yeah.
So the country-like aspect of bars is very funny because it completely changes. Like I know so many of my friends my age don't know anybody in town.
Yeah.
But because I used to work in the pub and obviously go there with my parents, I know all the old boys who would only be in at a certain hour. And that's the other thing as well with community bars. You know exactly who's walking in the door at what time.
Yeah.
Which is what I love as well. You're like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, or it's like, it's 5:30. Jesus, Keith's usually here by now. I don't know what's keeping him today. And then like Keith comes in at 6. Jesus, what's going on? I'm busy today.
I feel like the Italians, even because Cormac worked in an Irish pub in Florence for 18 months. And so you had your set of even Italian locals that would come in at their set time. Yeah. And, you'd be able to schedule that pretty well.
So that's the funny thing with the pubs in Italy, the Irish pubs, like the Italians love that as well. Being able to go to the counter, get their beer, don't do the table service. Like we do the aperitivo here, so it's like they give you crisps, peanuts, olives. You sit outside, you have your spritzes. A lot of Italians just like having beers, and sitting down, having a pint, and having the chats. And I think that's the crossover. And as well, like live music, obviously in Ireland,
it's everywhere. Oh my god, so sick of live music after being home for the week because like I just go into a place and it'd be like this one lad with a guitar on a mic.
Yeah,
but they plug in the mic to all of the speakers in the bar.
So you can't escape them.
You can't escape them. It's like a live radio broadcast across a 3-story fucking pub. I don't know. It drove me absolutely up the walls. But anyway.
But it used to be like, it was so funny because I was still in Italy when Jane went back, and then it was her ringing me like either in the pub or outside the pub, and all I could hear was just noise.
Yeah, it's a lot louder.
So loud in Ireland. And I was like, I know I'm a very loud person, and I remember in Ireland it was always that way, but it's just funny how like Italian bars are very chill and tranquilo.
And the music licenses are a lot different, so it's very tough to kind of come across live music, especially in
there's only a few places that actually have like pay for the full proper license, but it's like once a week, or like some places do it like regularly, especially over the weekend, but it's for like 2 hours, that's it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of places actually are restaurants. So it's weird that you have to go to a restaurant to hear live music in Italy.
Yeah.
Whereas like late bars, they have music, and like outdoor bars have music here, which is a big one. Like that's where you find live music. But the pub's not really.
It's funny. I feel like since we got home, since we got back to Italy from Ireland this trip around, we're kind of falling between two stools. And it's, like we are immigrants, like, or expats, or whatever you want to call it. But now it's like, there's things that I love and hate about both sides now.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
if we can just, like, we're hoping in like 5 years' time to get back to Ireland and kind of create the perfect marriage of the two.
I love to create like a standing corner in a bar in Ireland where it's like the little coffee hatch, and you just go there, have a quick espresso or have a quick coffee or a tea, stand, and then get out.
Or grab your quick glass of wine with a little crustini.
Yeah, little corner of the bar. There's just like no bar stools. You just stand there, and it's like you can pop in, get an espresso, pop out, or like, small beer, pop in, pop out. It's especially somewhere like Galway. It's such a busy, vibrant city. People passing all the time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like get into the bar because of people sitting at the bar. You have to wait behind the queues.
Yeah.
With that little coffee corner where you could just pop in, boom, I want a little shot of this, a little shot of that, out the door again.
It is slightly different though, just to note as well, because in Italy you are allowed to drink on the streets. So you're allowed to take a beer for takeaway or to grab a drink for takeaway. So a lot of people do that, like if they're kind of walking through town. Obviously Florence is such a bigger city than Galway is, or it's probably on scale. No, Dublin's probably a little bit bigger, but so there's all of that in play as well. Whereas like if you get your pint, you're in that pub,
But that's the kind of cultural difference, I suppose, where it's just like Ireland very much, warm, really like vibrant storytelling, music, but then bars in Italy during the day, it's like quick in, coffee, how are you, how's things, then off again, and then I'll meet you back here for the aperitivo.
Yeah.
And like one drink can last
an hour
in Italy, and they just talk, and they, the emphasis is more on connections, not drinking.
But yeah, all in all, I love Irish pubs. I like Italian cafe bars. They're growing on me more and more. So yeah, we shall see how we feel in another year.
Absolutely.
Non-alcoholic beverages then. The Irish tea versus Italian espresso, shall we say?
Yeah, so as we kind of said earlier there as well, like people are busy in Italy during the day. So it's like you pop in, corner bar, grab a packet of cigarettes, quick espresso, and you're off again. And that's like, that's just a done thing every day. You see people in, out, in, out. It's very quick. You spend 5-10 minutes maximum in a cafe bar in Italy, whereas in Ireland, you go in and you'd have the cup of tea. You'd sit down, you'd read the newspaper, you'd meet with a friend, you'd have a half an hour conversation, and away you go again.
Yeah. Also, Ireland has become quite like internationally commercialized, where people like their huge cappuccinos now, or like their mochas or whatever. So like Costa Coffee and Starbucks and all those have come into Ireland, and like even local kind of like Espresso 44 now is all over Galway, and people like go to Coffee Work. So there is a coffee scene definitely growing in Ireland. But people like a big milky frothy coffee.
I'd say like a latte is probably like the biggest one. Like latte is just like universally in Ireland. Because I could go in for a long detail about the quality difference between a proper cappuccino in Italy versus Ireland. Because the amount of times in Ireland, I won't name names because like the coffee's still really nice.
Yeah.
But I asked for cappuccino, I just get a latte.
Yeah.
It's just a latte. It's like a milky coffee. Yeah, there you go. It's like, no, I want like a frothy coffee. No, there you go. That's a cappuccino. I'm like, is it though? Whereas here it's just like really, the big thing is as well, oftentimes you want a really hot coffee in Ireland because it's cold.
Yeah.
And the baristas kind of take it upon themselves to make sure you get a nice
golden hot
coffee that do you an hour or two for the work day.
Burnt to bits, yeah.
So here in Italy, like it's very different. The cappuccino is usually very small, and it's frothy, and it's like a good temperature.
Yeah, it's very nice.
So
I find it a bit more difficult. Like we have got there's one chain here in particular that like does the international style coffees, but it's really hit or miss. So it is. They haven't quite adapted to the latte mocha kind of international style coffee.
The mochas seem to trick them up. They don't know what to do when they put that chocolate powder in. They just think it needs to be cooked.
And I obviously don't want to give Starbucks my money either. So it's
good
like,
God, no! In Italy, we'd be shocked.
Oh
by
yeah,
local friends. My God,
people literally will stare at you if you've got a Starbucks cup walking around the place. So. And then just Irish breakfast tea. So like in Italy, they do, you can get your chamomile teas, or you can get your berry teas or whatnot. They don't usually serve them that much in cafes or in bars though, which is it's kind of like a thing to have at home.
Yeah, even where I work now, like during the colder months, a few months ago, we got a few people ordering teas, but not a lot. It was your caramels, ginseng, the ginger,
Peppermint,
lemon, and all that kind of stuff.
But no, Irish breakfast tea is just the biz. Biz. So
much better than English breakfast tea.
It really is, yeah. So Barry's and Lyons are the two.
And big and bold and just delicious and
so
set you up for the day.
Yeah, you can just have the Irish breakfast tea then. Some people put milk and sugar in it. I just take it black.
Classic builder's tea.
Builder's tea, yeah.
Tea bag left inside.
I just leave it inside, yeah. Nice, dark, rich
cup of tea. Just to get you going.
It's really good, yeah.
But yeah, like the best places in Ireland often, because one of the pubs I worked in, you don't do a pot of tea. That's not a thing in Ireland. You just want a good mug. Big mug that's like, the size of your fist and you struggle to hold it. And it's just, that's what you want. You don't want any little dainty teapot and you're pouring it in yourself.
No, or sometimes then they just give you
a saucer.
They give you a tea, like a teacup and a pot of tea, and the pot of tea is the same size as the cup. And you're just wasting time. Like, I don't know.
Cut out the middleman. Just stick the tea bag in, pour the hot water, and away you go.
Stop charging me €6 for a cup of tea. Like,
but obviously, like tea in Ireland is kind of breakfast, obviously, and
I think Irish people drink tea throughout the day.
Yeah,
like up until dinner.
The classic tea time in Ireland from years ago that people don't really exercise anymore. I have a few friends that still do tea time before dinner. But in Italy, if you want a cappuccino after 12, it's a no-no.
Yeah.
Whereas there's no rules in Ireland. Like until the coffee shop is closing, you can order whatever the hell you want.
Coffee shops stay open in Ireland until about 6 o'clock. Most people drink tea throughout the day, and then they might have one last cup of tea after dinner with their like dessert or whatever, like traditionally. But yeah, in Italy, a lot of Italians are actually lactose intolerant. So it became a thing that if you want your cappuccino or if you want your milk, you only have it in the morning. Yeah. So it's just become a kind of law at this stage where
it's just hilarious. It's like milk after 12. No. Gelato at 10 p.m. Yes.
Bizarre.
What the?
Absolutely bizarre.
What are you on about?
But yeah, so it can be a little bit tricky if you like those international style coffees to find those in Italy. But you'll find them in any major city, do you know?
But like a lot of people now, like they love an iced coffee, and you can only really get that in that chain, Artigianale, or you can get it in Starbucks, and that's really it. Not a lot of places do it.
They haven't come on the iced coffee trend yet.
No, there's a few cafes now in Florence because there's about 75,000 American students who are coming through that have changed. Obviously, like Shake Cafe is another brand. Yeah, they do iced coffees. Because they're getting the market for it. Americans will travel to that coffee shop if they do it that way.
So they're saying now, I was watching our numerous Gordon Ramsay programs, but they're saying like iced coffee is becoming a bigger market than actual hot coffee now. So
yeah, big time.
It's mad.
Well, where do you want to start with this?
This will be an entire episode in and of itself. But I suppose from being at home last week, I just want to mention the difference in wine quality between Ireland and Italy. Like, we've got a place around the corner from our house now that we found called Wine Labs. Yeah. And everything's on tap. You can go in, bring your little glass bottle. They'll fill it up for you. It's €3 for like the most gorgeous Prosecco ever. Like the Chianti Classicos you can get for $2.50 a bottle or something. Yeah. Like, it's outrageous. And the quality is amazing.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Whereas, like, so Cormac has taught me, I'm a Prosecco drinker. And so Cormac was kind of telling me the levels. He's a sommelier, if you don't know.
In training.
So there's levels of Prosecco, which is like DOC is pretty okay. DOCG is when you're starting to get into the good stuff. But like a DOCG you can pick up in the supermarket here for like €5 if it's on sale maybe. And how much would that be in Ireland, like a DOCG?
A DOCG Prosecco?
Like €20 minimum?
25, maybe 30 for really like a Valabini or something like that. 30, 35 easily.
It's crazy.
Like, it's just like, I think the cheapest bottle of Prosecco we saw in Ireland when we were home was €12. The cheapest.
Oh yeah, because there's like a minimum pricing now with alcohol and stuff. And we'll do a whole thing on just like alcohol laws and rules and stuff.
The import taxation on alcohol to Ireland is criminal. When I first learned about it in college, we just had like this diagram of a bottle, and it's like contents. The wine itself is like 80 cents to produce like per bottle, and it was like the glass itself is like €1 to €2, and then it was just the cork was included in that price as well. That was only like 50, 60 cents or whatever.
Probably the labeling as well.
Yeah, the labeling, whatever. And then it's just like taxation, like €9, €10 per bottle, like depending on the cost. So it's like, we were like, what the? So obviously in Italy, they don't have that.
Yeah.
How Guinness is more expensive than Dublin than most cities around.
It's crazy.
I don't understand it. It's obviously just greed and money.
Yeah.
But anyway. But so wine quality, yeah, you can get like a DOC or DOCG. Because like the bottom rank of wine is always in Italy called an IGT. So it's just table wine. And that's what we get a lot of in Ireland. But the quality is a lot lower.
There's so many additives, I feel like.
Well, a lot of sulfites are added to wines that are being shipped internationally.
Yeah.
And the more chemicals added into the wine, the crappier the taste, the worse of a headache you get.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm allergic to sulfites, so I break out in a really bad rash on my neck if I have something that's like full of sulfites. So it's really, really annoying. So I can't actually drink wine. So I was never a wine drinker. I told Cormac when we moved to Italy, I was like, "There's no way you're going to get me on the wine buzz."
And I was like, "Just you wait.
Just you wait.
You have no idea the quality difference." So,
but in Ireland now, we do have a much wider choice in wines. Like,
well, obviously in Ireland, you know, like the biggest import to Ireland, I think, still is Chile.
Yeah.
So like there's cheaper Chilean wines, like, you know, people know Wolf Bass, Yellow Label, like all those kind of like big ones. But like Chilean wines, Spanish wines, like
Australian wines,
in most bars in Ireland as well, they'd have like a German or an Austrian white now as well, because people kind of like the more sharp acidic wines as well. It goes really well with seafood in Ireland. So the restaurants and the bars that serve seafood are getting more Austrian German wine, more like tannic acidic wines. So yeah, it's changing now. We actually have 4 counties in Ireland that are producing wine because of climate change.
Yeah.
So down in Wexford, I think there's two vineyards now.
Oh wow.
So like they're just doing like the really classic like Pinot Noir, I think, and stuff like that. Very fruity style wines. But because you have to add like a lot of residual sugar to get it sweetened.
But I feel like at least with the people that we know are like your customers that you would have had like in the pub that you worked in Galway, like people like a dark, rich red wine.
Yeah, they like big red wines. They don't like the light fruity ones. They want a big, you know, a Malbec from Argentina, or they want you know, that's a big classic one, but it's big, bold and fruity. And then like the Italians are like Valpolicella, Amarone. When I was working in that pub, it was $8.50 a glass, and that was like 150 ml measure.
Cheapers, creepers.
And like that was 3 years ago now, so I can't imagine.
God knows.
I presume that specific wine is probably next to 9 or 10.
Tastes over a tenner now, yeah.
For that one, because it was really good quality. Like it was strange for a pub to have such a good red wine, but there was people who loved it and drank it all the time. So it's like obviously the wine's so expensive.
Yeah,
but you can find like a lot of people now. If you're spending €40 to €50 for a bottle of wine. People in Ireland can find really, really high quality. It's great, but it's still €40 to €50. Like it's a treat. It's a special occasion. Whereas in Italy, it's like, oh, lunch, let's bring 3 bottles of wine. Yeah,
the price difference is crazy. I will note, like in Ireland, obviously, then you have a lot more access to international wines. Whereas in Italy, it's not even just national, it's regional. So my parents love wine from Puglia, and like it's really difficult to find Puglia wine in Florence, like in Tuscany. So there are a few places that specialize like in natural biodynamic wines, and they get them from France and stuff because they're just like wine lovers. But most of the traditional places, they just serve Tuscan, Chianti, or they do it by region. Yeah, and there's wine sellers and Enotekas that will like they have every wine from Italy, but like their international wine list is tiny. Tiny. The supermarkets do some variants of. I saw like a couple of Spanish wines the other day in the shop. But like still, like I don't think I saw a single Chilean wine. So it's just like fair. So then we'll do beer in Italy versus Ireland. Italians love their beer.
They do. They really, really like it.
My favorite would be, well, I've got 2 beers that are my favorite here. I'm a Heineken drinker back home, just by the way. So I like a plain lager. But here I love the Peroni. And the Peroni here is a red label. There's also Peroni Rosso, but that's a different thing.
I think they just call it like classic Peroni.
Classic Peroni, yeah. So if you get the Peroni and it's it has a red label, it's just super clear, really nice, easy to drink. It's kind of like a builder's beer. You
Yeah,
know?
builder's beer for sure.
And then my other favorite one is a Sardinian beer, and it's called Ignusia.
Ignusia is really good as well.
So yeah, I drink the non-filtrata version, and it's just, again, really light, easy to drink, crisp, really good on a warm day, especially if you get a frosted glass. So
but it's funny because Italians as well, they really love their strong beers. So like Tennent's Super is huge.
And Harp Strong.
And Harp Strong. And we're just like, what?
It's so bizarre.
So they love their stronger beer here because they like having like a small beer. And one thing we discovered, we were like, oh, can we get a pint of Chiara, which is just lager? And they'd be like, yeah, okay, it's going to be like €5. I'm like, oh, geez, that's great value for a pint. Brilliant. They bring us out this 400 ml media.
Media, yeah.
So medium beer. We're like, well, can we get a grande or like a pint?
But then a grande is then like a stein.
But then a grande is a liter. You're like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, so they do like sometimes they do 66 cl bottles, and then you just get a little glass with that. That's probably the best way to drink beer in Italy.
Yeah.
Bottled beer is a lot cheaper than beer on tap.
Yeah.
Beer on tap is extortionate, and it's the same price as Ireland, really.
Well, now all the Irish bars in town are gone up price because Diageo put up their prices all over the world, not just in Ireland. But it's €7 for a pint of Guinness or a pint of Harp or Hop House or anything like that.
Yeah.
You'll find some places that will have like one shitty beer that's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a pint is about a $5 in those like very rare, like hidden pub is one I can think of.
Yeah.
Where like as well they do happy hour in some places, so you can get like 50% off instead of $6.56, and like that's okay. Like for a pint €6, that's okay. You can manage that, but I don't know the beer scene here, the artisanal beers, like the craft beers, they're okay. I have to say they're not like amazing because they're marketed to more like a wine market where it's like they want the acidic, tannicky beers.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I know a couple of bars, they import a lot of beers from like Copenhagen and Ireland and like different places, and they're just a lot better. And they do love a German beer as well here, I have to say. They really do.
But then beers in Ireland, you get your lager drinkers, obviously. So Heineken and Carlsberg are your two big heavy hitters, or Tennent's or Foster's for the cheaper end student-y kind of bars.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking minimum €5.50, €6 for a pint. And then that can go all the way up to, I paid $7.90 for a pint in Galway the other day.
The biggest growing one in Ireland, I think, still at the minute is Moretti.
Yeah,
Moretti's getting into local pubs. Like my local pub in Leitrim has Moretti now. The lads love it, and like they really, like, it sells really well, especially to a younger demographic. But even my dad now and his mates, they drink Moretti.
It was Peroni a couple of years ago, and I'm really annoyed because I prefer
Peroni Nastro Azzurro was we in Ireland. For anyone who doesn't know, we used to call it the fancy hotel beer because you go to a wedding and they wouldn't have Heineken, but they'd have Peroni Nastro Azzurro, and you'd be like, ooh, like fancy Italian beer. Okay. Comes with a really beautiful tall glass. You'd be like, oh, I'm going to treat myself. But even back then, it was like €7 for
crazy.
a pint.
Yeah.
So that's kind of disappeared a little bit. It's like in the supermarket now for bottles, and people love it by bottle.
Yeah, I think Erdinger then came in and kind of stole the show off Peroni for a little while.
Yeah, well, Coors Light was always knocking around as well, especially with the younger demographic. And I think Moretti is kind of taken over from Coors now.
It's funny, actually, because the Irish go light, like Heineken Light, Coors Light and all that. Yeah, so we kind of have gone down the light road, whereas the biggest like craft beer now at the moment in Ireland would be a session IPA, which would be around like 4% alcohol, so you can drink it all day. And then Smithwick's is the same.
Smithwick's, Guinness, all those are like 4.2%. Some of them have gone up to 5 now.
But I suppose that's because we drink in such volume.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Like Italians drink in smaller volume, so they want stronger beers, whereas the Irish we want a lighter beer, but we can drink for longer. So it is a funny cultural difference as well with the beer drinking here.
And then obviously Guinness in Ireland, you were dying. The tongue was hanging out. That's all you were like.
It's like, give me a pint of Guinness, please. Because like obviously outside of Ireland, it's just not the same. It's not creamy. It doesn't have the same like beautiful coffee bitter taste. It's just.
And do you find that that's ingredient wise, or is that because of the gas?
It's very hard to actually know. I get to ask this question all the time. The biggest one is like your lines, the gas system. It has to be poured when you pour Guinness. It has to be nearly white when you pour it, and it takes a while to settle. Whereas like abroad, you can get like different mixes of gas and like carbon dioxide and nitrogen. So it depends on your system. Like the system is a big one because I remember there's the pub called the Devonshire, I think in England. I think it's in Manchester. And they brought over the lines from Ireland and the gas systems from Ireland.
Yeah.
And people literally queue now to get a pint of Guinness there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it might be like the smallest difference. It might be just like the pipe is a mil thicker or thinner or whatever. But it's just that abroad, you don't get the Guinness made lines. You get your own ones. And then the gas has to they might be thicker, smaller, whatever.
But good to know if we ever open an Irish pub here.
Oh, I'd be getting all the systems from Ireland.
Yeah.
I'd be getting the systems from Ireland for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably bring out Guinness Tech.
Yeah.
But a lot of my mates happen just to be Guinness Techs or like beer Techs. So I'd get one of them out 100%. You get a good pint of Guinness though. And like I got it nearly good in Finnegan's in Florence when I started working there.
It's the closest one to home, I think.
Closest one to home. Like I enjoy it. And like some days it pours really well, some days it doesn't. But like there's, as we always say back home, there's never a proper flow in it. And it has to be pouring all the time. And that's the whole thing. Like you need to have a
match
steady
day
flow. Yeah. Like every day, you know.
So that brings us to drinking culture in general. We've already, I suppose, kind of touched on it. The Italians are much more likely to drink at lunchtime. Then they go for their aperitivo. They don't drink late into the night. Most pubs here close 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
On the weekends, that might stretch to 1 in some places.
It kind of turns into the rugby fans and the football fans who want to have their few pints with the lads, like that kind of pub culture at night. But they're never, like, the pubs here are never packed like an Irish pub would be.
No, I will say down around Sant'Ambrogio, a lot of people, because they get the weather, there's a lot more like street drinking for the younger people. But like for anyone that's over the age of 30, I feel like they go to a restaurant, like they get their aperitivo, then they go to a restaurant, they drink wine all night.
Yeah.
They might stop off for one drink on the way home and that's kind of it. Whereas like the younger people, there's a little bit more of like a street drinking culture, a little bit of takeaway Aperol Spritzes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more, but
it just depends really on where you're going. And like there's in Florence during the summer, there's a load of pop-up riverside bars and venues. And they do beer as well, but they have like 2 beers on draft. And like a lot of Italian guys love beer and they'll drink that for their aperitivo.
Yeah.
But it's kind of not as common as Italians having a spritz or having a Negroni or...
Yeah, I mean, we went to recently the Fiorentina football... The football team were in the final of something, the third.
Oh, yeah, the conference, the Europa Conference League final against Olympiacos.
So there was literally thousands of people down by this riverside bar. And I mean, there were young lads ordering charcuterie platters. Like, it's just bizarre. Like, we just don't drink that way.
But that's the big culture difference as well, where it's just like Italians, they eat and they drink. Like, the whole aperitivo idea is like you have your crisps, your nuts, your peanuts. So you're always eating before dinner, like like grazing. So you're never pissed when you get to the restaurant.
Yeah.
But when they get to the restaurant, a table of 5 lads, or like lads and ladies, will drink, 3 bottles of wine?
Yeah.
Easily? Maybe 4? Like, it's just crazy, like, over the space of a few hours, and they're like, oh, yeah, wine during dinner, no problem, like, a load of it.
Yeah.
But Irish people are like, we'll have a drink with dinner, but we won't have a rake of pints during dinner. But we're like, I was in Westport there, and we had 1 drink with dinner, and then after dinner, we had a load of drinks.
That's just the Irish way. So I feel then, and just to say that the Italians then round their night out with gelato, which is bizarre.
It's just crazy.
Whereas in Ireland then, depending on if you're region, like if you're in the countryside or if you're in the town, I'm going to speak from a city perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very much 2 ways. Either you finish work, you go for a load of pints, you wrap up about 10 o'clock, you go home. Like that's maybe on like a Thursday evening or something. Yeah. Or if it's the weekend, sometimes people go in to watch a match, but it's like once you're on the session, you're on the session. And it's, what do we say? It's a marathon, not a sprint, do you know?
Yeah.
So people can be drinking all day and like, do you know, having 2 pints an hour all day, that really tots up. And then you go for a big load of chips at the end of the night or pizza or whatever it is.
Like 12 pints the first full day back in Galway. At least.
I mean, it's madness. So we really do drink a lot more, but again, the alcohol content is a lot less. And I feel Irish people, if they're out on the piss, we don't drink wine. It's like you pick your beer, you pick your beer, you drink your Guinness or whatever it is.
We don't mix, because if you mix, then you're
Whereas females then sometimes are more likely to drink wine or Prosecco, or they might drink like gin and tonics or vodka Diet Cokes or whatever. So they might be drinking one drink an hour, but still it's a big pint. It's a big pint country.
It's a pint country.
And then finally, pub snacks versus bar bites. Irish pub snacks. Oh, we should have brought some bacon fries home.
I know. Well, there was so much we wanted to try and get, but we had to make sure we actually got on the plane.
Yeah.
It's like pub snacks. So yeah, we have a large variety of crisps, often then the classic snack bars.
Chocolate bars, yeah.
Yeah, so chocolate bars, packets of crisps.
Peanuts.
Do peanuts as well.
That's
so like,
kind of it.
Yeah, but they're quintessential in every single bar. And, you know, you'd have your packet of cheese and onion Tato or your salt and vinegar crisps or your little tub of Pringles if it's a special occasion.
Yeah.
And then, like, pub food menus, especially, like, the smaller bars. Like, the classic best one is a toasty.
Toasty and a bit of
sandwich,
soup.
And a bowl of soup. That is, like, the quintessential Irish bar snack.
Yeah.
My dad always said it. You're sitting in a bar and you smell someone eating a toasty when you have a few pints. You're like, oh,
I'm in a good place.
I'll have one of those.
Yeah.
But like you end up ordering it, you end up selling loads more. That's why like a lot of bars now used to have the tiny grills behind the bar counter.
Yeah.
So you just smell that cheese melted and the ham cooking. You're like, oh yeah, I want one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how you progress. Obviously, like a lot of bars are bar restaurants in Ireland. So like, you know, you go to the pub, but it has a full kitchen.
Yeah. And so
chicken burgers, stews, like just basic meals.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's all just pub grub.
Yeah,
steak sandwich.
Roasty dinners, steak sandwich is a big one.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do like a chicken curry if they're really going out there.
Chicken curry, or they'll do like a seafood linguine. That's the big one. Like they'll try to roll, like, or like a bolognese or like a carbonara. Bolognese you'll always find on a kids menu. But
in those places, generally they have like a sit down section with your table service, but then they always have like a bar with stools, and you sit at the stools and you order from the bar. So it's a little bit more sectioned out. Where it's like, are you drinking or are you eating? You know?
Well, the whole thing as well, they have some places will have a couple of low tables that you would imagine like you eat at, but if they don't have menus, salt and pepper and sugar and stuff on it, then that's just a drinking table.
Yes.
And that's like an unwritten rule in Ireland. Like there's no setting on the table, but there's setting on all the other tables. I have to sit at one of the tables with the settings to have food. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, like you're not taught that, but you should know it.
And then Italian bars, cafes. Obviously in cafes they have like lots of sandwich bites. They have like mini pizzas or like sometimes full pizzas.
Oh sure, like so many places as well. Like they love their toasty sandwiches over here as well. Like paninis, like and heated up. But it's not a quintessential toasty. Like we like it grilled, but they just like it heated up and a little bit crunchy.
Yeah.
But it is funny because like where I work, we had pre-made sandwiches. You'd pop them in the grill, heat them up for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and serve them. That was it.
They were handy enough. Yeah.
Handy enough, but like, my God, you can go into Italian places and you get your bruschetta, you get your antipasti, meats and cheese, cured platters. People should we just share those? But like the big difference as well, like you get all the crisps and the peanuts and the olives for free with your drink. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Ireland, like you'd obviously have to buy your crisps.
Yeah.
There's no like free food with everything, because if there was free food in any pub in Ireland, it'd be the busiest pub in the country. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then just for the wine, like the Enotecas and stuff, they do like crostini bites, so you can buy like these little just bruschettas for €1, and sometimes might have meat in them or pate or whatever, and they are delicious. And I think that bruschettas or crostini should definitely be brought into Ireland, because can you imagine getting a little tiny plate of sandwiches? That'd be mighty.
I remember one of the pubs I worked in on Friday nights, we used to have a poker tournament. We had like 30 lads in there in the lounge, like all rotated around different tables, maybe 20, 25. But the barman always, like, he had the shop next door, a little tiny prep kitchen. So he just do goujons, small cocktail sausages and some chips.
Yeah.
So he'd bring it into the poker room, because it's included in your buy-in.
Yeah.
And then he'd always make extras for the bar next door to the lounge. So you'd always know when the local town would be like, sure, it's 10 o'clock. We might head down to Pat's now on a Friday night and get a few goujons and chips and sausages for free. And like the pub would be full.
That's a big one, yeah. So if you've got a party, like we'll say if it's your 30th birthday, your 21st birthday or whatever it is, if you book out like a large section of a bar, which people only do for events. They wouldn't do that regularly. But yeah, so often then the platter would come out with the mini sausages.
But
the
the platters in Ireland are always hot. They're never cold cuts, never like cheeses. Like, get away with that. I want goujons. I want that kind of half dinner.
We need carbs. Yeah.
When you're drinking pints, you need carbs.
I now understand why the Italians are so much fitter than the Irish, seeing as like the difference in a night out. Italians will go out, they'll have like their meat and cheese platters and their wine. So like calorie wise, they're maybe coming out with like 1,000 calories at the end of a night if they're really going mad.
Yeah.
In Ireland, you're drinking 10 pints and then you go for like a Supermax or like a McDonald's or whatever it is afterwards. Like you're talking 4,000, 5,000 calories in a night. It's
easily
crazy the amount that we consume. We could talk about this all day. We're going to cut this off for this bonus episode and we're going to come back next week with a bit more about different beverages in Ireland. Yes. Might talk about a bit of gin next week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get more in depth about the owl Irish drinks. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this bonus episode and we'll catch you in the next one.
And if you're having a pint, think of us.